This week on Africa Weekly, we focus on Madagascar, one of the world's poorest countries, as it prepares for its presidential election. And we travel to South Africa, where young fishermen are putting their lives at risk to trade in the illegal poaching of abalone, a valuable and protected sea creature that is a delicacy in parts of Asia. But first, a summary of the stories that made the headlines this week. The family of a woman who blew herself up on a busy street of the Tunisian capital on Monday mourned her death at their family home in the village of El Zorda.
I got a phone call from the police. They asked me, "Where's Mna?" I asked them, "Why? What has happened to her?" He told me, "We've heard some bad news concerning her." I asked him, "What happened to her? What's the bad news?"
30-year-old Muna Gwebla detonated a bomb near a gathering of police cars in Tunis's upmarket Avenue Habib Bourguiba, wounding 15 officers and 2 teenagers. Gwebla had a degree in business English but was unemployed, sometimes working as a shepherdess to help her family. 8 years since the revolution that toppled longtime dictator Zine El Abidine Ben Ali, which was triggered when an unemployed graduate set fire to himself, Tunisia's economy is stagnant and around a third of young graduates are unemployed. Monday's attack was the first in Tunis since November 2015, when a suicide bombing killed 12 security agents on a bus for presidential guards. The country has been under a state of emergency ever since. Supporters of an imprisoned Shiite cleric began burying dozens of people they say were killed in clashes with the Nigerian security forces. The Islamic Movement of Nigeria said 49 of its members had lost their lives since Saturday, contrasting with the military's official death toll of 6. The army and police fired live bullets at crowds who marched near and in the capital Abuja, protesting for the release of IMN leader Ibrahim Zakzaki, who has been in custody since 2015. Zimbabwe's MDC party's 19th anniversary rally finally went ahead on Saturday after being banned several times by police citing the cholera outbreak. Opposition leader Nelson Chamisa vowed to continue his push to take power after July's disputed elections, in which he lost to President Emmerson Mnangagwa. Chamisa, who has called for political dialogue to form a transitional government, said the economic crisis is a result of failed politics.
The country's economy is in the doldrums. The 2% tax that the government imposed is daylight robbery because it's money for their personal use.
Raging wildfires have killed at least 7 people, including a baby and a pregnant woman, in a farming settlement along South Africa's famed Garden Route. At least 400 firefighters have been deployed to try and contain the blaze, raging in the area which is around 450 kilometers east of Cape Town. The fires have burnt around 16,600 hectares and forced a precautionary evacuation of 3 suburbs, housing more than 1,500 people.
Devastatingly sad, and something that we wouldn't want to have repeated in Sandparks again. Lives were lost, but we are working towards new beginnings.
Britain's Prince Charles and his wife Camilla landed on Wednesday in the Gambia for the first leg of a week-long African tour aimed at strengthening ties with Commonwealth nations. The Prince of Wales, heir to the throne, took over as head of the 53-member Commonwealth of Nations in April, succeeding his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. He and Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, are visiting Ghana before ending their trip in Nigeria next week. Hundreds of thousands of people converged on Senegal's holy city of Touba on Sunday for the Grand Magal, a traditional annual march and the biggest celebration of the Murid Brotherhood, a Sufi Islamic order. The pilgrims came from around the country for the weekend celebration, which marks the life and teachings of Amadou Bamba, the Brotherhood's founder who died in 1927, with readings of his poems and prayers by his tomb. Around 90% of the Senegalese population are Muslims, and the country is known for its religious tolerance.
On her feet since 4 a.m, Claudine is on the lookout for plastic bottles, yogurt pots and other empty containers so she can sell them. With feeding her family as her #1 priority, the upcoming presidential election is the last thing on her mind.
If I were ever to vote, I'd vote for the rubbish bins. They're what feed us. The trash has always helped us, be it with food or as a way of making money. Why would I ever be interested in a politician?
Today, Claudine sold 20 plastic bottles for 1,000 Arrieri, equivalent to 25 euro cents. In a month, she might earn up to 20 euros, half of the minimum salary in Madagascar. With what she's earned today, Claudine is able to buy 400 grams of rice, enough to feed 6 mouths. But she won't be able to prepare it today.
We had our cooking pot stolen, but we already bought rice this morning, so we'll cook that tomorrow. I guess tonight we'll be going to bed hungry.
Claudine doesn't really care who wins the election. She doesn't think a change of power will affect anything in her life. By contrast, her friend Raymond is convinced of the power of politics to bring change.
You have to go and vote on the 7th of November, because if you don't vote, the candidate you want might not get in. I'm voting for the candidate whose manifesto has convinced me he's going to look out for the less well-off in terms of health and security measures.
Madagascar is the only country to have become poorer since achieving independence in 1960. 90% of Madagascans live off less than $3 a day. And despite her friend's optimism, Claudine remains tough to convince, feeling let down by politicians as the election draws nearer.
These fishermen brave cold, shark-infested waters to harvest this valuable but protected sea creature. Abalone is a delicacy in parts of Asia, and here in South Africa, the seafood is at the heart of a transnational illicit trade network. But as anti-poaching efforts intensify, these men fear for their lives.
It's like a threat for me also now, because I'm shooting at us now. But what can I do? I must go on, it's my life. I lost a cousin. Unfortunately, my life must just go on, because how's my kids is gonna go hungry?
The level of force used by marine law enforcement inspectors is being questioned. In August, protests erupted in the Hungberg community after a young fisherman went missing at sea. The community believe he was shot by an anti-poaching inspector after bullet holes were found in his boat and his body was never recovered.
If I can justify, the force level I used, then it's legal. Simple example is I can respond with whatever they are threatening me with. So if my life is in danger, if they're trying to ram me with a vessel, then we, by all means, allowed to use deadly force.
Soaring unemployment rates and ongoing socio-economic ills turn young fishermen to poaching. A successful harvest can earn a diver up to $690, roughly 3 times the monthly minimum wage. In Hong Kong, the seafood delicacy can reach prices as high as $12,000 per kg. But conservationists fear poachers are wiping out the population and warn that their illicit income will soon run dry.
If we're not successful with preventing the poaching, then eventually we'll reach a point where both abalone and rocklops are so heavily depleted that, again, those people will be out of work. So we really do need to find a way of creating viable, sustainable, meaningful employment opportunities for those people that are currently engaged in poaching.
According to Wildlife Trade Monitoring Network, Traffic, the black market trade is organized by Asian crime syndicates and in some cases local street gangs. It also reports that 9.6 million abalone were poached in 2016 alone, the highest levels of poaching recorded in the last 20 years.
Dressed in sheepskins and spooky masks, young Moroccans dance through the neglected city streets of Salé, north of the kingdom's capital Rabat, on Saturday to mark the annual Boujloud festival. Often referred to as Morocco's Halloween, Boujloud is deeply rooted in local traditions and customarily celebrated after the Eid al-Adha holiday. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.